What's up guys, Andrew Baena here, and today I'm doing a video tutorial about how I do my guitar playthrough videos for YouTube. There's lots of videos about this already, but I figured I would try and pass along some knowledge in case you want to start your own YouTube channel or just get insight into how I make mine, basically. So I have a lovely assistant here. This is my fiancée Serena. Every time I do a video, I get her to come sit in my chair with a guitar so that I can figure out camera angles. As you can see, I also have 3 lights. It's a little overexposed, but there's an umbrella light there. There's another light, which is the same light, but without an umbrella in that corner, and another light down there. So that one just gives a little bit of backfill. And the reason that that one does not have an umbrella is so that the lighting is more intense on one side. So the first thing I do is I pretty much just film myself playing through the song 3 separate times. I don't actually have 3 cameras, so I use the same camera to film it all 3 times. So usually I do like 3 typical angles that'll look something like this. So I have a tripod obviously when I do this, but I'll do an angle like this where it's kind of like down the neck, and then I'll do one in the front kind of like there or so, and I'll do another one down here or so. So those are usually the 3 camera angles that I do. It's pretty simple, but it's pretty effective. I do a lot of videos on YouTube. I do like 2 or 3 a week at this point in time, and I don't have time to be super creative, so I've kind of got it down to a little bit of a formula. So that's pretty much all I do in terms of actually filming the video. So now I'm going to switch over to my computer to show you guys how I actually edit the footage. Alright, so now that we got our footage filmed, the next thing we're going to do is import it into a program which is called Adobe Premiere. Obviously you can use whatever video program you want. This is just the one that I've been using since I was like 16 years old or something like that. So obviously I am better at it than any other program, which is why I choose to use it. You know, once you're used to using a program, you don't really want to learn something new. So I have a folder here with the footage I just filmed. Obviously ignore these 2 because that's what I just filmed for the tutorial. But I have these 2 guitar angles here, which I filmed. I decided to only go with 2 this time around just to make this tutorial a little bit easier. So the first thing you want to do is grab those 2 files, or however many files you're doing in your video, and you drag and drop them into Adobe Premiere. I've already done that, so I don't need to do it again. You drag and drop it into this section down to your left, which is kind of like your Explorer, basically. Like that's where all your files and layers and sequences and all that are going to live. Think of it kind of like Photoshop. Like this is where all of your basically this is a folder of your files, or a folder of your assets, I guess would be a better way to put it. So the first thing you want to do is drag and drop either of these files into this section, which is called Timeline. So you can see it says Timeline, no sequences, but if you drop any video file into here, it'll automatically create a sequence using that video file. So now you can see a new asset appeared in your folder, which is called the same thing as the video file, except without the file extension because it's a sequence. So you can obviously rename that if you want. Honestly, I don't really bother. So now basically you can start watching your video. It'll appear over in this section here. So, you know, if you hit the spacebar or play button, it'll play your video. Very awkwardly. So in case you guys don't know, by the way, all of my videos are pre-recorded audio. I never am actually recording in any of my videos. All the audio has been recorded like a day or hours earlier, and then I film everything separately. So in this video and in all my videos, yes, I am 100% miming to everything. So that's my first angle, and then I also have this angle here. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to drop this in here, but I want it to be on top of what I just did. So think of this like a layer. You know, the one on top, the video file on top, is always going to be the one that you see. So for example, if you turn off the visibility of this layer, you can see the other angle, and so on and so forth. And same with the audio. However, they're all just going to stack on top of each other, so all the audio is going to be mixed terribly and it'll sound awful. The next thing that I do is I make everything bigger in my timeline so I can actually see what I'm doing. So if you just kind of hover around where the track starts, you can just expand it upwards so you can actually see what you're doing. And then I do the same thing with the audio. Honestly, I think I actually utilize looking at the waveform in the audio more than the actual video, for the reason that syncing video to audio requires you to kind of know how the waveform works. So if you zoom in, for example, you can see obviously these are not in sync. Like, it looks like the metronome starts here on this one, but if you look at this one, the metronome starts like way over here. So the first thing that I always try in this scenario is if you highlight everything and then you right click any of them and then you click synchronize, then there's an option called synchronize clips audio. And if you click OK, sometimes this works. In this case, it didn't work, unfortunately. So if it ever works, it saves you a bunch of time because it'll just like sync everything for you, and it's amazing when it works. But more often than not, it doesn't, unfortunately. So we're gonna have to manually sync this. So basically, like I said, I always try and put like a metronome at the beginning so that I have like a reference of where I should be starting. So again, on this video layer, you can see that the metronome starts around here. So I'm just going to cut the video, and you can do that by just hovering near the beginning of the video clip and clicking and just dragging, or alternately you can drag the I don't know what you would call this, the scrubber or something, right to where the click starts. And then what I like to do is zoom all the way in, and you can see, like, you know, I don't know what this is called, I'm sorry about that. I think it's called the playhead. Is basically right where the click starts. And then you can click the razor tool, which is right here, or you can click the C key. So if you click C, it'll change to the razor, or you can click the razor, either way. I prefer using the quick keys. So V is for the normal selection tool, and C is for cut. So I kind of am always alternating between V and C on my keyboard. So yeah, so I will go to the razor tool and make a cut here. And now you can see that split this video file into two separate parts. So this part being nothing before the click starts, and I want to just get rid of that. So I click it and click delete, and now that part's gone. So this part should, in theory, be starting somewhat in time. So now we're going to work on this other one. And because I don't want to be hearing what I just edited, I'm going to mute that and also make it invisible. So now I'm just looking at this other video layer. And again, you can kind of see the clicks start over here somewhere. So again, I'm going to zoom all the way in. And I'm going to scroll to right about there. I'm going to click the C or razor tool, cut it, and delete. Then I'm going to zoom back out and do that. And now that's looking like it's a lot more in sync. So when you zoom in, you can see that the clicks are like pretty close to in time. If it's not 100% perfectly in time, it doesn't really matter that much, to be honest with you. Like, the average person will not notice if it's like a millisecond off. And also the other problem is, as you can see, if I try to drag this around, it either is a little ahead or a little behind, so it's not really ever going to be perfect. You could also try to sync it again now that the beginnings are in sync. It might work. Yeah, it's still not going to work. So yeah, basically this will be good enough. And then the next thing I do is I go to the end of the clip and I just cut it where it should be cut. So you can see, like, there's this part where I'm just like turning off the camera, and I obviously don't want that in there. So I'm gonna just play back and press the space button or the pause button when I get to the part where I want to make the cut. So right there, that's where the video ends. So I'm gonna select my first video layer, click the C or cut tool, razor tool, make a cut, make the same cut on the other video layer, click the V or selection tool, grab all this stuff I just cut and delete it. So now we have like a nice clean cut 2-layer video project. Pretty simple. So the next step is to sync it to the audio, which I'll do right now. So as you can see, like I said earlier, I already have this song pre-recorded as a WAV file. So I'm going to drag and drop that into here as well. That's going to import. So now you can see we have an audio file in our kind of project browser. So I'm going to drag and drop that audio file to be on the very bottom of the project. So now we have the pre-recorded audio and the 2 video layers all at the same time. So as you can see, like I just said, there's like kind of a, I think it's like an 8-click count in before the song starts in my video files, but the song just starts right away. So obviously we need to move the audio file so that it starts after the clicking. So again, I'm going to go right about here. Looks like where I start actually playing something. You can see, you know, this starts to look more like the song. So I'm going to zoom all the way in. It looks like I start playing guitar right about there. and the song starts right away. So I want to grab this audio file and just drag it so it starts right there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to solo the audio track. So now both of the videos audio is muted, which is good because it's pre-recorded audio, so we don't want the camera audio in there anyways. And now in theory, my guitar videos should be in sync to the song. So let's see how it looks. Okay, so that angle looks pretty good. And then I'm also going to check my second angle and check if that's in time. Okay, cool. So that's pretty good. So again, since the song starts right away, I want to get rid of this intro because I don't want to just have like 3 seconds of nothing before the song starts. So I'm going to grab both of these video layers and just drag the beginning so that it starts at the same time as the audio. And now there's going to be a black space for 2 seconds, so I want to grab everything, including the pre-recorded audio, and drag it so that everything starts at the 0-second mark. So now as soon as the video starts, it's going to start right where I want it to, like this. Obviously I want to have the audio soloed still, that was my bad. Okay, cool. So that's pretty much most of the setup work. Once you get the hang of this part really doesn't take that long at all. It takes maybe like 30 seconds, but explaining it all takes quite a while, as I'm realizing now. So the next part is we move on to editing. Editing this video in particular is going to be super easy because there's only 2 angles. So this is actually a trick I learned from watching Pete Cottrell's videos about how he does videos. So what he likes to do, and what I now like to do, is I select both of my video layers, I right click them, and I click nest. And then it says create nested sequence. You can name this if you want. I don't even bother. Just click OK. So now, as you'll notice, those 2 video layers disappeared, and now there's only one, which is called nested sequence. You'll also notice that when you click the nested sequence, it no longer is attached to these audio tracks. So before, for example, I'll show you, when I clicked this video layer, this audio track was automatically selected. When I clicked this one, this audio track was automatically selected. But once you nest, that's not the case. They're all individual. So since I'm not using the camera audio, I can just select both of those and just delete them. So now I have just a nested sequence and pre-recorded audio. And we've already synced it all up. So we should have no more issues with that. So now really all we have left to do is to cut the video up so that it's a little more interesting. There's more camera movement and stuff like that. Alright, so now when we want to make cuts between the 2 camera angles, we need to click on our nested sequence, right click on it rather, and there's a button that says multi-camera, and you want to go multi-camera enable, and now you'll notice it switched back to the other angle. So both of these angles are contained within one nested object. So if you select the object and click this button here, which is toggle multi-camera view, now you'll have a different window show up where basically it shows you your 2 camera angles, which is here, which is 1 and 2, and then over here on the other half of the viewfinder is the actual video, which will be your output. So when I click the 2 key on my keyboard, it switches to angle 2, and 1 is angle 1, and so on and so forth. So this part's actually pretty easy. Again, huge shout out to Pete Cottrell for showing me how to do this because this has saved me so much time. So now all you got to do is click this record button, multi-camera record. So basically what this does is it's going to record your key presses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click play or the space bar on my keyboard, and that's going to start playing the video. And as the video is playing, I'm just going to click camera angle 1 or 2, and it's just going to switch between the camera angles on the fly. Very simple. I'm also going to drop down my rendering from full to a quarter just because I don't want to kill my computer. So yeah, here we go. So once again, you click the spacebar or the play button, and then you start switching camera angles like this. Okay, so that's the beginning of the video. So as you can see, I kind of like to just keep the pacing pretty easy. You know, every time the bar or the riff repeated, I just switch the camera angle. Very easy. So if you pay attention, I'm gonna play it again, and I'll kind of like point when the riff changes, and that's exactly when the camera angle changes as well, like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You see what I mean? Pretty easy. That's one way to edit, which I find to be pretty efficient. It's obviously not the most interesting thing in the world, but if you want to make a video really fast, this is probably the easiest way to do it. So I'm going to hit the record button again and just keep going through the song and keep making cuts. Alright, so anyways, I think you guys get the point. Basically, you just do that for the whole song, and when you're done, that's pretty much it. You just click File, Export, Render as Media. Very, very easy. So again, this is a really quick and easy way to do a guitar playthrough video. So if you only have one camera, do not fret. Most people only have one camera, like myself. You can obviously use like your phone or anything like that. At this point in time, honestly, your phone is probably almost as good as like a camera that's a few $100s. So I wouldn't worry about your camera too much. What I would worry about is your lighting. And even that, like I showed you, it's not that expensive. I think my lighting setup was like $60 to $100. Very, very simple. You can get even cheaper than that with better results, to be honest, if you just look up like DIY lighting tutorials. Yeah, so lighting is most important, and then other than that, that's pretty much the tutorial. So hopefully this was helpful to you guys. This gives you a little insight as to how I do things, at least in a very basic edit. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. I really hope that this was useful to some of you. I look forward to reading your comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.